Yeah.
All right, here we go. Eagles podcast. I forget what the hell we call this now. Flying high with the birds, Philadelphia Eagles talk. I am the Godfather. With me is Will, the deal sealer. Seal
Hey,
the
what's up,
deal
guys?
sealer.
What's going on?
Not much. We got the pod chaplain, Jimmy. What's up, Jimmy?
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Yep. And finally, we got the bagman.
Hi, guys.
All right. So, what the hell happened last week when we made these predictions?
I mean, third quarter, I was basically preparing 3 bags for each one of you guys because I thought they were going to lose. But
I'll tell you honestly, I don't know how they won that game. It's beyond me. I have so many thoughts about the game. I mean, I don't know about how you guys feel, but the Eagles have to stop playing games like this. I know they're 10-1. I know the deal. They're 2 games up on everybody else in the NFL. They're winning games they should be losing. And I know that they're showing the I forget the word that they've been using on the sports talk show, that they're just rising to the occasion to win, but they're not anywhere near completing football games. They're playing a half a game all the time. So let's start breaking this down. Whoever wants to start talking, I'm good to go here.
Go ahead, Vahe. Start us off.
Yeah. Vahe's the only one that picked the loser last week.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. And the thing is that sometimes they just circle the wagon. I mean, the thing is that with Brian Johnson, I don't think he's doing the job. And all his plays, like basically everybody knows what's going to happen. And right now I can understand they don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But the guy's like either over his head or I don't know. I mean, maybe he doesn't know how to adjust when he loses a player. I mean, you know,
here's my, I definitely got you on that. But here's my question: like, your best plays normally are the ones you script at the beginning of the game. I'm not sure what it is, Will, if it's 10 or 15 scripted plays that they
I think
start
it's 15.
Well, I mean, like the first 3 plays were just Lane Johnson's not playing, and the first 3 plays. Hurts is scrambling to his right. In fact, it might have been the first 4 plays, and he threw it out of bounds every single time. And then how many screen passes to the wide receivers were there? So I don't know. I just feel like the adjustments are being made in the second half, but they can't be playing first half football like this anymore.
Because they're completely different in the second half. I mean, they went up and down the field at will in the second half. Every time they needed to score, they did. And they made it look easy.
Well, don't you guys think that I mean, there were some really interesting play calls in that second half. I mean, some of the runs to Swift that they gave, they were really nice plays. The touchdown at the end of the game, that was phenomenal because they saw the look that they wanted. It was cover 0, and just everything like parted like the Red Sea. At that last play. So the second half was good. I want to say this. I heard that the touchdown that Devonta Smith got was a result of them faking for the wide receiver screen that they've been doing the whole game that wasn't working. And then things opened up in the backfield. So by the end zone. So I don't know. Maybe is it a case where the plays that they're playing that are calling that are terrible in the second half they're more prepared in the first half, they're more prepared in the second half. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this, Will.
I don't think we'd be having any of this discussion if Brian Johnson was not calling the plays. Like if we had anybody else, I feel like the Eagles would be, blowing teams out. Luckily, I mean, we've made great corrections at halftime to really open up the offense and really let Jalen Hurts just do his own thing. And I think he's taken over more himself in the second half, because they're pretty much just scrapping the whole game plan that they're going into each game with. Because you're right. I mean, those first couple series, that whole first half was just absolute garbage. Like I didn't understand what plays we were running. It was embarrassing. But he is, to me, he is the number one problem on this Eagles team, and I think he's the only thing that's going to hold this team back from winning a championship. Because you're not going to be able to keep winning these close games. Like you're playing with fire right now, and
Yeah.
if this doesn't get corrected, like quickly, like we're not going to win this year. He's my number one concern.
I agree. It's going to blow up in their face, in the playoffs because you're not going to win, losing the turnover battle.
Yeah, I mean it's like they script all this. They script this game plan throughout the week, and then they go out and they have maybe 3 series through the first quarter and a half, and it's not working. And then they go into halftime and they're just like, all right, Jalen, what are you seeing out there? What do you think we can do? And then they're just letting him take over the game. And, lucky for us, he's so talented, which how much I hated him before, but he is so talented. And he's taken this offense to like the next level in the second half. And the team is so talented and has so much like real weapons on offense. They just take over games in the second half where it's like they could screw up for a whole half and have 2 turnovers, 3 turnovers. It doesn't matter. They're still going to be in it at the end. But it's just, it's really important that something gets fixed when we, get into playoff time.
Do any of you guys think that Nick Sirianni's fingerprints are on this offensive game plan every week? And the reason why I'm saying that is 2 years ago when Sirianni was basically calling the plays, it was awful. And then I can't remember who the offensive coordinator was last year, the guy that's the coach for Indianapolis. Then he started calling the plays.
Steichen.
Right, Steichen. And then Steichen called the plays all last year. Okay. Now this year they got a new offensive coordinator. And the first thing that you hear is Gannon discussing how Sirianni called the plays at the beginning and he was doing a terrible job until he had Steichen call the game plan. I think it's possible that Sirianni's fingerprints are on this game plan. And if that's the case, then this guy Johnson's really getting a bad rap. So I just want to say that there's a possibility that it's more than just Brian Johnson here.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's more of he's in his ear and he's overseeing it. I think he learned his lesson and he knows what he's not good at this point in his coaching, career. And I just think that he's there in the game planning room and he's kind of giving his input. But I think he's really allowing his coaches to do their job. And I also think he's holding them accountable because he was on the radio this week and he kind of just said, the whole first half it was, play calling and not executing. So I mean, I think he's in Brian Johnson's ear just as much as the fans are kind of letting him have it too.
I guess I could agree with you, but I mean, let's look at these last 3 games. They're in the middle of this murderer's row series of football games. They're halfway through. They should have lost to Dallas. They should have lost to Kansas City. They should have lost to Buffalo last week. And it just, by the luck of the draw, it's the plays that were not being made by the other team that actually made the Eagles come back and win each game. But if the one thing I've noticed is that in every game since Dallas, the Eagles were further and further behind. Like they were outplayed by Dallas. but it was back and forth, and then they won at the end. They were outplayed by Kansas City, and in the second half, they came back and beat them. They were, in my opinion, totally outplayed by Buffalo last week and came back at the very end of the game to tie it and then win it in overtime. And if you look at that game Sunday, the guy Cooks misses a wide open touchdown pass the first series of the game, and they end up getting two illegal procedure calls after that and pushed them back, and they couldn't even attempt the field goal, and then they punted. So they squandered 7 points there. Then the kicker gets one field goal blocked and another one he misses from 40 yards. So that's like 13 points right there that are taken off the board. So my concern here is that they are falling. To me, they're playing from behind a little bit more every week. And now they're playing on, and we'll get into the Niners game after this, but now they're playing the team that is probably quite a bit better than the three teams they just played.
Yeah, they might arguably be the second best in the league.
Yeah, it reminds me of last year when Gannon was the defensive coordinator and everybody was complaining about it. And they were saying, well, at least they're winning the game. They have like 100 sacks or whatever, right? And then what happened? They went to the Super Bowl and they got exposed. And then he was exposed to. I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen. Even if we basically somehow we go to the Super Bowl, it's going to be the same thing. And everybody's going to say, see, we told you this was just basically,
You know, it's really amazing that we're actually blasting this team and they're 10-1 right now. I mean, would you have ever thought that this is what we're talking about? But seriously, if we dissect this game Sunday, they didn't get much pressure at all on Allen, and I know Allen is very, very tough at eluding a pass rush. But it just seems like to me that the pass rush is becoming a little bit more non-existent every game. And now they got Fletcher Cox that chances are will not play because of a groin problem. And then, their linebacker situation is a mess right now because Jacoby Dean's out. Zach Cunningham may not play because of a hamstring issue. And they're down to two linebackers. And I know that Shaq Leonard came in, today, I think, to visit with the team. And I don't know if they're going to sign him. And even if they sign him, do you think he's going to get playing time on Sunday?
They say he's supposed to make a decision, I think, by the weekend.
The bottom line is who's ever going to offer him more money, that's where he's going to go. That's the way I feel about it.
Eagles and Dallas play next week, so that's most likely going to be his first game.
Yeah,
either against the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Yep. But as far as the linebackers are concerned, it looks like they're going to start Nick Morrow and Christian Ellis. And after that, they don't have anybody. They got Ben Sumer that they called up from the practice squad, 3 weeks in a row. So if he plays this week, he's got to be put on the 53. He cannot be protected anymore. But I don't know who would pick him up, but he supposedly is a real good special teams player. And I got to tell you, San Francisco is going to dial up a lot of passes where the linebackers got to cover a tight end. And that tight end that San Francisco has, that's the guy that linebackers cover quite a bit if the safety, Bayard, doesn't cover him that much. So I think they're going to dial up a lot. They're going to have their choice of plays, I think, to expose the Eagles defense this week.
One thing they should do that they don't usually do with Brock Purdy is blitz the hell out of him. Because if you let him stay in the pocket, he's very accurate.
But
so
he's
try to make him uncomfortable.
Right, but he's basically a 3-step drop guy. And who covers if it's a 3-step drop? Normally and if they do these mesh routes or something in the middle of the field, that's where the linebackers come into play. And the Eagles, I think the Eagles are really going to struggle with Purdy this. I just got that feeling that they are. So
yeah, and the 49ers have a lot of weapons too.
Yeah, and then here's another thing too that I was thinking about. There was talk that Bradbury had a bad game. Now I watched that game in the All-22. I thought he had a really good game. He just got exposed a little bit on when he was doing man-to-man coverage, but he's not a man guy. He's a zone guy. So I don't know. I just got this feeling that San Fran's going to dial up some passes that almost are where the Eagles are probably going to have to play man-to-man defense, and they may expose Bradbury. But I think that I just think it's I don't know. I this week really does concern me big time, and a lot of it was because of the way they played, especially in the first half last week. So
yeah, and the 49ers have arguably been playing their best all year the last 3 weeks.
yeah, no, I agree 100%. Well, I'm going to pose this one
Plus,
to you.
they had, like you made the good point, they had the extra 3 days off, which is huge. So
Yeah,
they're gonna have
absolutely.
10 full days off. I think that, and they're pretty much healthy for what I.
And they got all their players playing
Yeah,
this week.
I think they're
Yeah,
pretty much
all.
healthy.
Well, I know they're missing their safeties. Their two starting safeties are going to be out. So I think that maybe some long passes. I mean, this could be a game where AJ Brown gets a lot of passes. But well, let me
How are
ask
the
you.
corners? Do they have good corners?
Yeah, they're very good corners. No, they are very, very good at cornerback and linebacker. They have the best linebackers probably in the NFL. But their safeties, they got to come back with the one safety I know that they got to use is a special teams guy this week, and I don't know who the other starting safety is going to be. So I think maybe they can dial up some plays that'll get into that part of the defense. But let me pose this to you. With all the heroics that Hurts has done, and he's been a very big part of why they won, especially these last 3 games. Do you think overall that he's having a better year now this year than he did this time last year?
I mean, you can't fully answer that question. I think as a development aspect for Jalen Hurts in his career, I think yes, because he's more of a pocket passer and he looks like he's reading the defenses better instead of escaping the pocket earlier. Last year we saw him escape the pocket a lot earlier, but he was, doing some great things with his legs. This year he's kind of being more relaxed and he's trying to read the defense more. And I think overall that's going to be better for the Eagles in the long run. So yeah, I do think he's having a better year this year. He's a more rounded quarterback this year, and you can really open up the offense more. If Brian Johnson allows him to, or puts him in the right position to.
Or somebody that's responsible for all those plays. I'm still not sold on it being solely Brian Johnson. Here's an incredible stat.
Hurts has got to be the front runner for MVP, correct? Or
well, and a lot of it has to do with how he's doing, like in the second half of these games. Against Buffalo, his quarterback rating in the first half was a 7. At the end of the game, it was a 96. So in the second half, it had to be like 130 or something. That is incredible.
You know what's amazing? He just doesn't get rattled. If you're watching that overtime, he's sitting on the bench. He's not worried at all. Buffalo's going down the field, and he's like, don't worry. He's like, we got this. And they go right on the field. Like, even to tie the game at the end, they get that field goal. He just took them down the field like it was nothing. I mean, they were in field goal range within like a handful of plays, I think. And then the same with the overtime. He just has it. I'm just more and more impressed by him each week.
So
like
he's usually improvising. Do you think it was he's improvising towards the end of the games? That's why it looks so good, or it's part of the script?
I don't know. I didn't see him audibling a lot. I just think he went with the play calls. I don't know if you guys noticed, but to me, it seemed like there was more pre-snap motion in this game, something that they haven't done. So I don't know. Maybe down the road, they're going to get more and more complex with their offensive scheme situation. But I don't want to give Sirianni a pass on this offensive play calling thing. I'm not letting that go. I just don't know. I don't know if it's all Brian. There's obviously something wrong with the play calling, but I don't want to. I'm not ready to totally blame one guy for all this, where it might be more than one guy. So, I mean, like Brian Johnson's already being discussed as a possibility as a head coach somewhere next year. So if his play calling was that bad, why would they be? Why would they be
It's just the
saying this?
numbers. It's the numbers
Mm.
because the Eagles are putting up 30 points a game and they're 10-1. I mean, automatically he's going to get an interview for a head coaching job. He might not get it, but he's a candidate right away.
They always take the best teams.
Well, let me ask you this. Don't you think that this year,
It reminds me of that. There's so many offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators that end up getting a head coaching job and they suck. Probably it's one of those situations.
Now there's more turnaround in coaches in the last couple of years than ever before. Like you're seeing guys get hired and they're fired the same year or 2 years later. And it's because this is the approach that owners are taking. They just say, all right, they don't really know what goes on in Philly.
No.
Owners, they just say, look at the Eagles. They're putting up all these points. Who's their offensive coordinator? I want to talk to them. That's it.
Look at Frank Wright.
Yeah.
I mean, he got fired last 2 years. He got fired before the middle of the year.
And the owner and GM screwed that team up. They traded all those picks away.
Yeah.
They don't even have a first round pick. It might be first overall, and Chicago's getting that pick.
Yeah, that is correct. And you know, it's funny, the guy Tepper for Carolina, he's the one that wanted Bryce Young. The head coach and the offensive coordinator wanted CJ Stroud.
And look how Stroud's doing now. Exactly.
Yeah. You know, one thing about, and I think I talked about this last week, that everybody was saying that Young's going to be a much better quarterback because his preparation is incredible. He looks off receiver like he's everything. But when I saw the way that CJ Stroud shredded Georgia's defense in the playoffs last year, I was convinced that he could be a really good quarterback in this league. Plus, the guy's got a cannon for an arm, and he actually is, you know, he's a big reason why Houston's has a shot at making the playoffs this year.
Yeah,
he's probably. I mean,
it just shows how much
he's the rookie of the year, in my opinion.
Without a doubt.
Now, would you guys consider hiring Frank Reich as a guy that's in Brian Johnson's ear?
Yeah, right now, yeah, I kind of would. Even though we're a little late in the season, I'm just not seeing enough out of the scheme and the being like original with the play calling that I would just want somebody there. Maybe he's not calling plays at all, but he's just listening as each play is being called. So if we're running a screen pass for the 6th time in a row, hey, can we stop calling this? Pick something else. I don't know. I don't think it can hurt the Eagles.
Right now, Will, wait a minute. Let me just say,
Sirianni looks up to him like a father too. He's supposedly had a.
Let me just say this, okay? 2 years ago, when Sirianni, and I hate to keep going back to Sirianni, when he was calling the plays at the beginning of the year, it was the same plays. The majority of them were wide receiver screens, right? 2 years ago, when they were terrible, before they gave Steichen the job. Now, the same thing is happening this year, where there's a ton of wide receiver screens. That's why I think that, and I knew that most of this podcast was going to be on the play calling, but that's why I think there's a possibility that it is much more than the guy Brian Johnson that's supposedly calling the plays.
Harmon, let's say you're right, which I don't think is the case, but let's just say that you're right. Don't you think that's more of a problem that Brian Johnson is doing absolutely nothing then to at least say, he is the one that's taking the rap for everybody's coming down on Brian Johnson. Don't you think Brian Johnson would be telling Sirianni, like, this is how I think the offense should be run, or these are the plays that I think that we should be calling? You think Sirianni hired him and is just basically calling the offense? Like, it
No,
doesn't
I
make
don't think.
sense.
No, I don't think he's doing that, but I think that maybe he just felt like that he should get more involved now because there's a new guy calling the plays who has no experience calling NFL plays now. So that's a different ball game. So I'm not sold on it being him, but I know that Sirianni hears the play calling and I hear him talking to people while the plays are being called. But do you guys feel like the body language that there's a disconnect between Hurts and Johnson whenever they're on the sidelines talking?
I do. I think they're always mad at each other. Or I think
He's
Hurts
not,
is frustrated with Brian Johnson.
and you never really near him. He's always sitting on the bench. You look at the tablet by himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's really odd. I
Like
know.
most
Yeah. No,
most of
I
the times
agree.
you see the coach, the quarterback, and the offensive coordinator together, going over something on the tablet. I don't think I've seen that at all this year.
Yeah. Do you guys also feel like there was a little bit of disconnect with AJ Brown with the offense this past week? Like,
He
let's
dropped the
take the
ball.
one. Well, let's take the one that he really should have fumbled at the end of the game and almost cost him the game. To me, it looked like he was just.
Yeah.
It didn't look like he was going all out to make the play. He played like, to me, looked like he was pissed the whole game. That's the body language I get because he's a real excitable guy. He wasn't like that this week, and it's because he wasn't getting his catches.
So you
So
think he's more of a stat guy.
I don't know. I think
But he got a
maybe that's
touchdown. But
yeah,
he
he
got a
did get. Yeah, he got a touch. He did get a touchdown. He did.
I
But
just
I
think
just
there's a
feel like
lot of I just think there's a lot of guys on that offense that are really frustrated with the plays that are being called. Because you can even see frustration out of Kelsey, and like you never see that. But I just think they're really frustrated because they're getting off to a slow start week after week after week, and it's the same dumb plays called over and over again. And then it's like second half, it's a completely different team. And I think that's because they're going into the locker room. And a lot of times the coaches are just going to the players like, hey, what do you see out there? What's open? What can we do? And then they just put it together on the fly. I just feel like
that's called
Players
making.
make their own adjustments.
But it's called, that's right. It's called making adjustments. And this is the best I've seen this football team in many years make the adjustments in the second half of game. I've never seen that happen with an Andy Reid football team, but it's happening here. So I who is it? Is it the coaches? Is it some of the players? I think Sean Desai, how can I say, he's really strong. He has, with what he has to work with, I think he has done a marvelous job and has made great adjustments in the second half of these games. But the offense is also making adjustments as well. So I don't know.
I think on the offensive side, it's all the veterans, the Kelseys, the Hurts. They're getting together, say, let's do this. This is what's going to work. I think they're taking it into their own hands because they look completely different. Like, it's unreal how different they look.
Yeah, it's like night and day when they're out there. But now we gotta get into the injury situation. I've heard talks about Dallas Goedert possibly playing. I know that I think tomorrow's Thursday. Tomorrow's the day that they're going to go over their injury report. I can't possibly see Goddard playing. And if Goddard don't play, AJ Brown, DeAndre Swift, these guys have to really have to pick up the slack for that. And I know Swift has been terrific in these last couple games, but you got Dallas Goedert that may be out. Lane Johnson, it's not a definite that he's playing. Zach Cunningham may not be playing. Why? Does anyone know why Milton Williams didn't play last week?
he definitely
I don't
got
think.
hurt the week before.
Did he get hurt?
He wasn't
got hurt the
protocol.
week before, yeah.
So he didn't play at all.
Protocol. No.
What's this?
No. He didn't play at all last week because
he did not play.
No, he did not.
So now if Cox is out and possibly if Milton Williams is out, they are really thin on the
No, he's going
defensive
to be back.
line. Oh,
Concussion protocol.
he will be back. Well,
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
was in concussion protocol.
but I took a peek at the number of plays that the players had. Like Carter played like 90% of the snaps, which he's never done. Trying to think, but most like there's a lot of the guys are getting a lot of snaps now, so they're tired, and I think that I don't know if they can continue at this pace right now. But defensive line all of a sudden might be getting thin because to me, it just seems like they're getting pressure, I guess, when it really counts. But for the most part, I don't see them getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
No, I definitely agree. But the thing, like you said, like they're getting the pressure when they need to, when the needs to make a bad play. It seems like they have, especially in the second half.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's dive into San Francisco. Vahe, what is the line? What is it telling you?
Yeah, that's one thing I like to talk about the line. Everybody's complaining that this is the disrespect, and the Eagles are 10-1, and in the history of NFL, this is the first time. Blah blah blah. It doesn't mean anything. The line is the line. It's a betting line, right?
Yep.
So what they do is that in Vegas, they just set a number, right? They start, I think, with -1, and people start betting San Francisco. That's why they keep raising the number, and now became about between 2.5 and -3, right? So it has nothing to do with disrespect or anything. It's just basically how the public feels about the game and the line associated with it, and then how that's what they're betting. They're putting their money, how they're betting this game. So all these people talking about disrespect, whatever, it's just bullshit. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, right? So it just basically right now, the rest, everybody, if you look at it objectively, the Eagles, they played an overtime game. And most of the players, they played more snaps than they're supposed to. They're tired. Versus San Francisco is coming in very healthy. They had a 3 days extra for rest. So on paper, they're better team. Yes, the Eagles have 10-1, but you could have easily been 7-4, right? Because all those games, all those. So yeah, 10-1, but it's the technicality. And that's why when it comes to the betting, it's -3 because that's the way, and we -2.5 and -3 because that's the way people betting the game. It has nothing to do with the disrespect or anything.
Yeah, if you're a bettor, you got to love that line. The Eagles are plus money.
Yeah, that's
you got to love
right.
that if you're a bettor and you're going to bet the Eagles.
I agree. I don't think it's disrespectful. I think San Francisco should be favored. And I think part of it's because of the way that the Eagles play in a big part of these games, which is horrible, which is absolutely horrible. So, but it's funny, like I'll watch these games and it's like, I'm so pissed off with how bad they're playing. And then I get real excited at the end of the game. It's like, oh my God, they won again. They're not 8-1, 9-1, they're 10-1. Then I get pissed again. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. This team's playing pretty bad ball for a big part of these football games. So, should I be thankful that they're 10-1? Yeah, I guess I feel thankful. But I think all of us as a group here know that there's a problem. There is a problem with things that are going on right now. Now, could they get totally exposed Sunday? I think it's possible. Could they win? Yeah, they could win. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But the way I'm not confident at this point, and it's no matter who they play, that they can play a complete football game. They played 11 games this year. They have not played one game that's complete. The only game that I could see that was close to being complete was the Tampa Bay game, and Tampa Bay stinks. So I don't know.
One thing I don't understand, people are saying, San Francisco kept saying that basically if we had our quarterback, the outcome would have been different, right? But still, the Eagles, they put up 31 points against that vaunted defense. So, yeah, maybe they could have. It's not like basically the Eagles were shut down. again in that game last year, right? So that's why I don't think it could be basically exposed in a sense that they're going to be like a 45-10 a la, Dallas Cowboys outcome. But I think it's going to be really hard for the Eagles to win because they're just tired and injured.
I agree. And if there is the time of the year for San Francisco to be wanting to play the Eagles, it's this Sunday. It's this Sunday because the Eagles right now feel depleted. If they can win this game, I would be so immersed at how this team can battle through adversity the way they have all year long to win this game. But I'll still feel positive about them, even if they lose this game, because of how far they've come with all the adversity that they've had. But I don't know. There's holes. Now, speaking of holes, I also heard that Nolan Smith is nowhere near ready to be a starting edge rusher. He's getting blocked out a lot, and he needs to really get himself stronger. And think about this. If Jalen Carter was picked by Chicago at 9, there's a real good chance that Nolan Smith was getting picked at 10 by the Eagles, or 11, whenever they picked. So, let's not give this draft class an A just yet. I don't know what you guys think.
I still think he's going to be a player. Let him develop and learn this year, but I still think he's going to be a player.
I think they could use him now. I think they could use him now. So, and that guy Omo or Jomo or whatever it is, I think they need to let him play a little bit to see, because they cut Barnett, and Cox may not be playing this week, so maybe he will get some snaps as a defensive lineman this week. So, I guess it's, I'm going to start with the predictions. I'm going to start with this one. I've been very impressed with how they've come back and won games, and Hurts to me is to me, even though he's not playing as good as he is last year, to me he's more of an MVP candidate now because of the way he's coming back and winning these games. But I feel like that he's been putting the team on his back in all these games, and there's going to be a time where it just can't be him. It's got to be more than everything he does. I just got a funny feeling that I can't really pinpoint a score, but I think San Francisco could win this game by as many as 2 touchdowns. And I'm going to say, I don't know, 35-21. I might be way out. I might be way off, but I have no feeling on this game.
I have them losing 30-24, but not by double digits. I just think they're in a tough spot. This is the 49ers Super Bowl. They've had this game circled on their calendar since the schedule came out. They've had the extra 3 days off. They are coming east, which is a benefit to the Eagles, but supposedly they were coming in earlier to get adjusted.
They came in early. Yeah,
to get adjusted to the Eastern time. I just feel like, I just feel like the Eagles have been, getting lucky the last 3 or 4 weeks with these last second comebacks, and you can't keep burning the candle at both ends. But I still think they're in really good shape. They could lose this week and next week, and they're still going to get the number 1 seed, in my opinion, even if they lose the next 2 weeks.
Well, if they lose the next 2 weeks and San Francisco wins in 2 weeks, they're the number 1 seed.
But then, I think the 49ers are still going to lose another game. And I think if the Eagles do drop 2 in a row, I think they're going to get everything together at the end of the year. They're still in a good spot to control their own destiny, even if they've only lost 1 game this year. So,
yeah,
it's, even if they lose 2, it's not the end of the world. I still think they can control their own destiny.
All right, so that's two of us that are picking the Niners. Will's going last because I know he always picks a point less than what Vahe picks, except for last week. So Vahe, I got to hear this prediction.
So, oh, okay. I was thinking about this on paper. Everybody says San Francisco, but it's going to be raining, and it's going to be loud, and it's going to be cold. So for those three things, I think probably the Eagles will pull out a win, maybe 24-21.
It's supposed to rain Sunday?
Yes, it is.
And there's a good chance for rain again.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, 3 games in a row.
That'll be 3 weeks in a row.
Let me
Yeah,
check.
I'm afraid they'll just see if it rains though. Like they can just feed McCaffrey all day long before you know.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's the whole thing.
That's
If
what I'm afraid of.
then the Eagles they can stop the run. I mean, I think that's one thing is going to work in for the Eagles. And let me look at the temperature for the weekend. So earlier I was looking at it. Sunday it's going to be PM showers, and it's going to be let me see what's going to be temperature 45, 55, high 45. So most probably it's going to be around 45 game time, and it's going to be chance of rain 50%, and 8 miles north, 8 miles per hour. So it's not that windy, but it's going to be rainy, and it's going to be relatively cold. So for that, I don't know how, and then the atmosphere, being a late game, dark, all the noise. So that's why it's one thing that Eagles, same thing happened with the Buffalo. Probably that same thing happened with the Buffalo, right?
Well,
so I would say
remember
24-21 Eagles.
Right, but remember, the Eagles were outgained like by over 100 yards in their game last week. They were dominated actually, I felt like they were dominated on both lines of scrimmage until maybe halfway through the second half. So
I don't know. I mean, the thing is that Brock Purdy, I mean, under the perfect situation, he'll basically beat you. But this is not a perfect situation, being away and the rain and, it's not the most perfect environment. And then if they're going to just rely on running, and then the Eagles can easily stop the run, and then what? That's why I think that the Eagles will beat them 24-21. The weather is going to help us.
Yeah, that's a good point, Vahe. Well,
Vahe, you surprise me every single week.
How? Bag. How can I surprise?
No, you don't have to wear. You don't have to wear the bag. These two weirdos on the other side of the screen are gonna have to wear a bag next week. You guys, I don't understand. I think you guys are spoiled from last year with the Eagles just dominating terrible teams all year. Now, nobody in this league has played the amount of talented teams that the Eagles have played this year. And you know what? They're still 10-1. And it's not pretty, but you know what? They're so good. Teams have to be perfect to beat them. And I think we're really losing our grasp of that. You look at this 49ers team, they're really good, but they haven't played even close to the talented teams that the Eagles have played. And Vahe, great point on the weather, because Purdy has really small hands, and maybe I'm being a homer, but he's terrible in the rain. He was horrible in the rain a few weeks ago.
Cleveland.
He's gonna throw you some pick opportunities. I think that the game is for the Eagles to have, and we are good at stopping the run. I think we match up really well against them. I think we're gonna win 27-21.
Wow, it's even bigger spread.
Yeah, he's very confident of that.
I'm not worried about this game. If we lose, whatever. But I don't think
That's
all
how I
good
feel.
points.
They lose, whatever. I'm
it's
still.
not gonna mean anything.
But all of
exactly.
you has brought up very good points. But one thing I'm going to combat with what you said, Will, is like San Francisco, like absolutely dominated Dallas, who in my opinion is a very, very good football team who could literally beat anybody in the NFL. And they dominated that game from beginning to end.
Dallas has still yet to beat a team that has more than 4 wins. So until they do that, it's Dallas. It's the same old Dallas.
Okay. I'm with you. Before we wrap this up, any last minute thoughts?
The 41ers suck.
Pray for rain.
Pray for rain.
Right. And just remember what I said. Brian Johnson's name might not be all over this offensive play chart. Okay. So, all right, with that, we'll wrap it up. Another one in the books, everybody. Thanks again for watching, all 2 or 3 people. Flying high with the birds. Philadelphia Eagles talk. See ya.
All right,
Yeah.
See you
Good night,
guys.
guys. Be in touch.
Yeah.